Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome to the hopefully new and improved Force of Will news. As you can see, it's a little bit different. I'm hoping you guys like it. You guys can sort of let me know what you think in the comments below. This is sort of, I'll put this as the first piece of news, is I was doing a sort of soft relaunch of the channel in the sense of just visually. So as you can see, we had the new intro. There's gonna be new intro cards for everything. There's gonna be this for the news. It's gonna be nicer looking gameplay for live gameplay, and I'll be doing new layouts for lackey gameplay, just across the board everything, an attempt to essentially just make the channel overall just a lot more nicer, a little bit higher quality, and all of it is 100% thanks to our patrons over at patreon.com/tcscrubs. I've been showing them what we've been doing as we go along, and literally, like I always say, 150% really of what we get in Patreon goes straight into the channel. And so that includes just visually everything you see, the fact that I have this green screen that you can't see behind me and all this stuff. So huge thanks to them for making this possible. And yeah, so we'll go ahead and get into the news, I suppose. Before we get started, as always, if you guys are looking for Force of Will singles, sealed product, and caster singles and sealed product, be sure to visit Happy Little Hug Factory in the link in the description below. You can pre-order the next set, Winds of the Ominous Moon. You can pre-order the new Caster Chronicles booster box, all for competitive pricing. So make sure you click the link in the description as well so they know we sent you. And yeah. So all the news that happened is GPs and their results. So if you guys are really into GPs and news, top 8 results and all that, this is the news for you today. So we'll start with the one that people are probably most excited about, or were most excited about, which was the Wanderer GP in Providence. So this one, Joey and I kind of briefly went over at the very tail end of our podcast. We were going to talk about it for the podcast, and if you watched it, we got pretty sidetracked by certain things. But so for at this GP Providence, 65 people total showed up, which I had mentioned in the podcast. I was a little disappointed about because I was hoping for at least 80 and above, since the company said they're going to be using this GP as sort of their go-to on whether or not Wanderer is something they should support. But I have high hope because, as people like Stephanie pointed out, Providence is usually a low turnout area anyways. I think she said last year around 80 people showed up. And it also was the Mother's Day weekend, among other things. But it also begs the question of like why they put it that weekend and in that location if they're using this to judge Wanderer as a whole. But anyways, the ruler breakdown, there was 19 Sherrys, 15 Keurigs, 5 Lumias from Legacy Lost, 4 Farers, and then sort of broke down from there. The top 8 consisted of, this is interesting, 4 Sherry, 3 Keurig, so all New Frontier stuff so far, but it had 1 Grim. So I was personally extremely excited about that, seeing a Grim up there. I like those sort of fairy tale decks, and this guy went full fairy tale. All of these lists, all this info, for if you want more detailed versions of what I'm talking about here, you can just visit our website, tcgscrubs.com, click on top 8, and then click on season 4, and it goes from oldest to newest, so just scroll to the bottom and click on them. But the Grim list I found super interesting. It was, I think, 4 Otherworld Dreams, and then the rest was just fairy tale resonators. It was pretty awesome. But the top 8 card breakdown, as far as like the top 8 players, the card breakdown, I'll just do the top 4, which was, first was Farer's Spell, followed by Otherworld Dreams, followed by Gretel, which is pretty cool, and then followed by Last Days of a Powerless Dragonoid. So that gives you a good idea of what all was going on there. Moving on to GP Toulouse in France. So both this GP and the GP after this, we don't have quite as much info for. There might have been more info, but we just haven't had a chance to gather it. So if we get more info, it'll be updated on our website. But in the GP in France was New Frontiers. The ruler breakdown, there was a total of 101 people at this one. There was 40 Scheherazads, 14 Keurigs, 9 Ayus, 9 Lumias, 8 Imuls, and then 21 other. The top 8 consisted of 6 Sherrys, 1 Ayu, and 1 Keurig. So still following that same pattern of Sherrys, and I believe all 3 of these GPs I'm talking about had Sherry as first place, just as some sort of indicator as well. And then lastly was GP Nagoya in Japan. And this one was interesting because the CEO himself, Eiji, showed up and played some games. So that was kind of funny to see. But this one, there's only 26 people, and there was 15 Scheherazads, 3 Lumias, 3 Kiriks, 2 Aimuls, and I'll point out there was 1 Gil from the Lost Home starter deck, and from what we can tell, I'm pretty sure that was the one that the CEO was running, so that's pretty funny. But yeah, so once again, a lot of Sherry. I'm really hoping that the CEO noticed that while he was playing with everyone, that everyone was running Sherry and different things like that, and hopefully he played against a Sherry deck. But we're hoping that these sort of GPs, especially the 2 different Wander GPs, were both still dominated by Sherry. So hopefully all of that is an indicator of just how strong Sherry is, whether that indicates a ban of Sherry or ban of some of the cards that support her. I don't know. That's something we went into a lot more detail in the podcast on, if you guys are curious about that. But let us know your thoughts on those GP results, what your guys' thoughts are on Sherry, and especially your thoughts on the Wander GP. Were you excited about that, a little bit disappointed with the results and turnout, or is it about what you expected? Because maybe I just had my expectations too high and all that. And also let me know what you think of this whole setup and the stuff that we'll be doing going forward as well. So keep an eye out for that. And thanks you guys for your support, and we'll see you guys next week.